I'm in my childhood bedroom and it's the last Saturday before spring break, so it's time to get emotional. Pathos is an appeal to emotions when you're arguing, and it's kind of cool because you can use all kinds of things to manipulate emotion. Lighting, music, orthographical selection, tone of voice, visuals, you name it. Literally almost anything you can do will manipulate emotion. Pathos is less cool because emotions are really easy to manipulate and also very powerful tools of persuasion. As an example, this past week, we saw National Walkout Day where students walked out of school to protest gun violence and guns in schools. Compare the emotion of these two statements. 17 people died on the February 14th school shooting at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School, compared to the headline from this New York Times article about the protests that we saw this week. You can see that there's a lot more emotion in the headline itself rather than me just factually stating what happened. You can see even more pathos in some of the photos of these protests because they show emotion both in people's faces and in the physical actions that they're taking in protest. Seeing someone's actual physical reaction is very emotional for us, and seeing students lie down in protest of gun violence in particular is very compelling emotionally. It's a very strong tool, it's a very strong appeal to pathos because it puts the idea in your mind of these other children that weren't able to get back up after their lives had been taken. Emotions bond you with the people that you're talking to and the people addressing you or others like you. But as with appeals to logic and appeals to credibility, there are fallacies. There are emotional fallacies. There are scare tactics, which are basically just scaring somebody into getting them to do the thing you want them to do or to believe the argument that you're making. There are sentimental appeals, which are when you use emotion to distract people from the facts. And there are bandwagon appeals, which urge everyone to follow the same path. But pathos isn't always about being sad, like with these photos and the stories from the protests of the National Walkout Day. Like I mentioned before, it can be about being scared, happy, sentimental, nostalgic, jealous, angry, anything else you can feel as long as you feel it powerfully enough to be persuaded to do or believe something. Like for example, depending on who you are, this picture of my dog might go viral for a number of reasons. Some people think she's really cute and find her very endearing, so this picture would elicit a positive or a happy response. Others might note that she looks like a pit bull and think that makes her dangerous, in which case you'd probably feel more negative emotions like fear or anger. Other people might just not like dogs very much and won't feel much of anything when they look at her. I'm not optimistic about my dog going viral, but at the very least she demonstrates a very common form of appeals to emotion or appeals to pathos that we see on the internet, which is pictures and stories about animals, in particular pets. Here's looking at you, We Rate Dogs and Old Friends Senior Dog Sanctuary. Recognizing pathos or appeals to emotion is important when it comes to understanding what politicians or news stories or teachers or neighbors or whoever else might be doing to persuade us. And it's also important in recognizing how we might improve our own arguments or our own communication by not relying too heavily on emotion to get things that we want to come across. I could spend a lot more time talking about emotional fallacies in argument, so let me know if you'd want to see a video about those. Maybe we could talk about how to watch out for them or how to avoid using them yourself. Thank you for watching, and thanks for being emotional with me.